For today's webinar, we're going to do an update on a variety of topics related to USDA Foods, and we'd initially planned on also including some information on standardized recipes. However, due to staff illness, we'll be rescheduling that section of today's webinar. The webinar today is being recorded. We will stop the recording before we do a question and answer session, and this recording will be later available on our YouTube channel. My name is Katrina Peters, and I'm our School Nutrition Services Manager here at the NDA Food and Nutrition Division. So for today's agenda, we're going to talk about how entitlement's calculated. There are several factors involved with that calculation. We're going to talk about why your entitlement amount changes and what influences that change. We're going to talk about how you can access information on what your entitlement amount is each year and how you can monitor your balance. We're going to talk briefly on what products you can use your entitlement for and briefly discuss a few updates on direct delivery items or brown box as they've been referred to often in the past. We're also going to provide an update on our F&D entitlement policy. So we've made a few changes in entitlement rollover, and also we're going to allow an option where districts can relinquish some entitlement or surrender it, and how districts could opt to accept additional entitlement if they so desired. And again, due to staff illness, we'll be rescheduling the standardized recipe webinar, so more on that to come. To briefly talk about some vocabulary, first the term entitlement. So this is the dollar amount that you are provided to either acquire brown box or direct delivery items or processed foods. When we say USDA Foods, we're often referring to brown box or direct delivery items. And those are foods that are provided by USDA, and they're typically fruits and vegetables, grain items like brown rice and pasta, frozen meats, and also some cheese items. So there's a big variety of direct delivery or brown box items available. We're also going to use the term survey, and when we say survey, we're describing an online tool to gather information from districts on what products they want. And you're probably familiar with the processed food survey, and we're now introducing a new survey for the brown box or direct delivery items that we'll be using to get information on quantity and type of items folks desire, so we can bring those into the state. When we use the term wish list, that's a list provided by USDA. That's all the products that are hypothetically available through direct delivery or brown box, and we'll talk about wish list in a little more detail. The foods available list is published by USDA, and that's what we've been using in the past to generate that wish list. CNP 2000 is our online web-based system that you utilize to order commodity foods. So it's a little different than CNP that you utilize to put in your your claim for reimbursement, which some of you may be familiar with. Okay, how is entitlement calculated? Entitlement is a moving target due to a lag in finalizing meal counts nationally. But essentially, your entitlement is based on the number of meals served. So we really want to emphasize to folks that the more meals you serve, the higher your meal counts are, the more entitlement dollars you'll be able to utilize in the following year, which is really exciting. So there are a lot of reasons to keep your meal counts high and increase your participation, and this is definitely one of them, to be able to increase your entitlement amount. to talk a little bit about the calculation that's utilized for the entitlement estimate, and we really want to emphasize that it is an estimate. It's not a number that's set in stone. There are a couple of factors. So the first is really your prior year lunches. So that's your total count of lunches served in the prior year. Breakfast isn't factored into the calculation, it's just lunch. They multiply that by what they call the July rate. And the July rate is the per meal entitlement rate that's published in the Federal Register. So we'll be sending that information out in July through numbered memo. They also apply what they call a 12% funding. And what this dollar amount is it's based on a regulation that says that 12% of funding, 12% of the total amount of funding spent on NSLP reimbursement nationally has to equate to the USDA Foods entitlement. So it's saying that USDA Foods entitlement nationally must be equal to 12% of the total funding spent on NSLP reimbursement. So the July rate that's published isn't necessarily the end-all be-all final rate that will be given in terms of your per meal entitlement. They'll also factor in this 12% and potentially increase. We did have an increase to the per meal entitlement this year based on this 12% funding formula. We'll also then subtract or minus your prior year balance, and all these factors come together to give us your total entitlement dollars. Okay, so now we're going to switch and we're going to do a poll question. So this is a true-false question. Is it true that entitlement belongs to the state agency and not the school district? So we'll go ahead and give you a few seconds to vote on this. Okay, it looks like we've got one true and no one else has responded. So we'll go ahead and close this poll. And yes, the answer to that question is that it is true. The entitlement belongs to the state agency, not the school district. Okay, so let's get into a little more detail on entitlement. So often we're asked, why does the entitlement amount change? And the entitlement amount changes because the initial amount we give you at the start of the school year is based on your previous year meal count estimates. So at the time that we give you that starting balance for the start of the school year, we're utilizing an estimate based on number of meals served from the previous school year. Once those meal counts are finalized at the end of the federal fiscal year and we get information from USDA on our final total meal counts from the previous school year, that's when we then make adjustments. And not this previous summer, but the summer before that, we had a Nevada School Nutrition Association meeting with all of our directors, and it was the will of the group that they didn't want a spring adjustment, that they wanted an adjustment made at the start of the school year. So previously, we've applied an adjustment to your balance in the spring, which created some complications because a lot of times folks had already made plans for how they were going to use those funds, and they preferred that we just add that amount to the starting balance at the start of the school year. So we're not doing that. We're applying any adjustments at the start of the following school year instead of making an adjustment in the spring. Okay, we often get the question, how do I know what my entitlement amount is each year? And again, we start the school year with an amount that's an estimate. There's an adjustment once those meal counts are finalized, but you can always access your current entitlement balance in CNP 2000. And we've shared a little screenshot here that shows what each of you see on this contract entitlement screen, and it shows your agency name, your entitlement that you started with, the amount you've used, and then your entitlement balance that's remaining. So if you're ever wondering what that dollar amount is, you can always access that information in CNP. Okay, so we have had a lot of conversations here at NDA about wish lists and surveys and how to best collect information from school districts on what products they want us to bring in the state. And because it is kind of a complicated equation, we wanted to share some basic information and then talk about what new steps we've put into place to try to get a better picture of what school districts need. So we're required by USDA to share with districts the USDA Foods available list. And this list is really kind of a best case scenario. These are all the foods that are potentially available through USDA Foods, but this doesn't guarantee that they'll be available. So these are all the products that they ideally would like to have available, but then due to crop shortage or producers not submitting bids, sometimes those products are not available. However, we share that list. That's a federal requirement that we share that information with you. And we'll be sending that out shortly through numbered memo, and that's the 15-16 foods available list for the coming school year. What we've done on our end is we've shortened that list to foods that we think are most appealing to districts. So we've done some surveys just through looking at ordering patterns. We know kind of what products are most attractive to districts, and we whittled down that foods available list to reflect items that we think would be most appealing to you and meet your needs. And then we've created a survey in CNP to determine if we have enough demand to bring in a minimum quantity USDA requires for us to get that product. And in the following set of slides, we'll be going over in detail how to enter that information for brown box or direct delivery into the CNP system. And it's similar to how we use a survey to determine quantities of processed foods needed. So those of you that have gone in and filled out that processed food survey in CNP, you'll be very familiar with the process. Okay, this is a slide where we're going to kind of walk through what the timeline looks like. So with our new merger, I've been learning a lot about USDA Foods. And it's a lot of information to take in, and one thing that I learned is how long it takes from the time districts say, hey, I want beef patties to when it actually hits our dock. So we want folks to understand that there is quite a time gap between when we request foods from USDA and when they actually hit our dock and then are then delivered to you. And also there are some cancellations that occur based on foods available. So once you say you would like it, we order it from USDA, there could potentially be a cancellation where we aren't able to bring that product in. We're trying to provide information when that does happen so that you can make adjustments, but cancellations have occurred, especially over the past 2 years with crop shortages and drought. So kind of looking to the right-hand side of the screen and looking at a timeline, in late winter or early spring, we ask you what foods you'd like, and again, we'll be doing that through a survey in CNP. We then consolidate those orders and determine what will be ordered from USDA and made available to the districts, and we want to provide everyone as much product as we can, as much variety, but we also have to meet a minimum quantity to be able to bring it into the state. So if folks just want 1 or 2 cases of something, we probably won't be able to bring that item in. In spring and summer, USDA opens what they call catalogs, and that's where we're able to go into the USDA system and order the product that we want, and we bring that in typically by a full truckload. Then in the following summer through the next spring, so all over that following school year, trucks arrive at our state warehouse. We allocate those foods out to districts once they're received, and then you receive those products based on a fair share allocation and what you accept or reject in CNP. So we're really looking at a year plus from the time that districts say they want a particular item to the time that it actually hits your dock. So there is quite a lag but we do try to match up what school districts desire with what we bring into the state. Okay, so a little bit more information on direct delivery foods, or brown box as we've often referred to them in the past. USDA has put a lot of effort lately into bringing those products up to speed with the new meal pattern. So they've really focused on lowering sodium, and there's no sodium added in their frozen fruits, in their frozen vegetables, which is great. They've also updated their product spec sheets. So those new formulations are reflected in those updated spec sheets, and you can find those at the link on this slide. And they've also updated some of the calorie information. So the calorie information posted on the spec sheets used to be a little different than some of the products that came in. They've now worked on that to try to provide a more accurate picture through those product spec sheets. They've also increased the whole grain rich offerings. So in the past, we had some 100% whole wheat items available. They've now incorporated some 50-50 blends. So we have some 50-50 blends of pasta that are now available instead of just 100% whole wheat product, which we're really excited about. We also want to make sure folks are aware that feedback on USDA products is really important. So if you're receiving products that don't meet your expectations, don't meet your standards, please email me that information so we can log that into the USDA complaint system. It is a lengthy process at times to get those complaints addressed. Sometimes they have to write a different bid spec, and that can be a lengthy process, but it's really important they get that feedback in order to make those changes. So we really want to encourage you to let us know when you receive product that doesn't meet your standards. Okay, now for an update on some of our new policies. So we have a new policy for reconciliation, and this was based on feedback that we got from our food service directors. And this basically just outlines that we will be making those adjustments on the following school year. So in the past, we've made that adjustment in the spring. We got feedback from districts that product wasn't available, and that didn't work out so well for them. So we'll be now doing those adjustments and adding that to your starting year balance. We will provide you with a copy of the reconciliation spreadsheet when it's final. We'll be sending that out via numbered memo. And that'll give you a picture of sort of how that adjustment will be applied to your starting balance for the following year, so you can budget that accordingly. And then, as we always have, we'll be entering in your starting entitlement amount by July 1st. We also have a new policy that will enable districts that haven't used all of their entitlement and aren't planning to use all of their entitlement to surrender a certain amount of entitlement. So if you find yourself in a situation where you realize you're just not going to be able to use all your entitlement dollars, you can opt to turn that over for another district to use it. So we'll be sending out the particulars of this policy through number memo. We also have a standard form that you'll utilize to opt to surrender entitlement if you don't think you'll be able to use all of it or don't desire to use all of it. And then also the same form will be your means to request more entitlement. So if you've already used all yours, or you know you're going to use all yours and you could use more, there will be a form where you can communicate that to us. Okay, so now we're going to switch over to another poll question. And this poll question is asking if you would be interested in either surrendering or giving up some entitlement. So, and this isn't, we won't hold you to this, we're just sort of trying to gauge interest in seeing if you already know you're not going to be able to use yours and you want to surrender some, or if you would be interested in receiving more. So we'll give folks a few seconds to respond. Looks like we've just got 2 answers, so we'll give folks a few more seconds. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close this. So it looks like we got about half and half, that we have some folks that are interested in surrendering, and we have some folks that are interested in receiving more entitlement. So that's really exciting. We're hoping that this can help districts on either side of that situation. Okay, now we're going to switch gears a little bit and we're going to walk folks through the new USDA Food survey. So the purpose of the USDA Food Survey is we're replacing that old wish list spreadsheet. So those of you that have been around a while, we used to send out an Excel spreadsheet where we asked districts to estimate what brown box they would want over the whole school year. And we found it to be pretty cumbersome, and districts kind of had a hard time filling some of it out. So this survey is going to replace that, and it's a consolidated list of items. So as I stated before, from the foods available list, we've eliminated some things that we know districts just aren't interested in and that no one's brought into the state. If you do have an item on the foods available list that you're interested in, please let us know. We're happy to make accommodations. We just wanted to kind of streamline the survey to allow you to fill it out as quickly and easily as possible. So again, this survey helps us determine what items to order from USDA to bring into the state to make available to districts. And it's similar to the process for indicating the desired amounts of processed foods. So those of you that have completed that, this will look real familiar. So you'll go ahead and log into your CNP 2000. And everybody on here should be real familiar with that. If you need any technical assistance, please let us know. You're going to go ahead and click on Agencies, as indicated by this red arrow. And again, this home screen should look real familiar. Then you're going to go ahead and select Surveys. And again, that's indicated by that red arrow. Next, you're going to click on Continue. This will pop up kind of the current program year and the National School Lunch Program, which applies to all of you. Now here you'll see a list of surveys, and most of these are those processed foods. But if you look on the bottom currently, there's a 2015-16 fruit and vegetable survey. So currently we're trying to collect information on what fruit and vegetable direct delivery or brown box items folks would like to see brought into the state. So you're going to go ahead and click on that survey number. Then this is going to open up a screen that's going to list the items available. So again, this isn't the full foods available list. We've narrowed this down a little bit for products that we know districts are interested in. And you'll just scroll down through this. This is a list of all the items that are currently on the survey. So for this particular one, those are fruits and vegetables. As you go through this list, we'll want you to enter in your anticipated usage for the next year. So this isn't on a per month basis. We're looking at the whole year, so you want to total up number of cases. Here on this top line, we have an example for applesauce. So this is the 6 number 10 cans of applesauce. It'll give you the estimated USDA value, so that'll be the entitlement that it'll pull down. And then on that far right column, we want you to enter in your estimated usage. So again, that's the total number of cases for the whole school year. It'll provide you with information on how many you received last year, which can kind of help give you an idea of your usage. The inventory on hand column is an artifact of our system that doesn't provide us with any information. So you can go ahead and ignore that inventory on hand column. Once you've entered in all your information, you're going to go ahead and hit that Submit Survey button, and at that point in time, your survey is complete. So that computer will kick that information over to us, and your job is done. So we'd really like to encourage folks to complete that 15-16 fruit and vegetable survey by February 27th if you haven't already. And we also want to let folks know that coming soon we'll be releasing our meat and grain survey. So we'll be sending out an email announcement when that's open, and we'll want to encourage folks to get in there and provide us with your anticipated usage so we can bring the right amount of product into the state. With that, we're going to go ahead and conclude our survey. We're going to stop the recording, and then we'll open it up to any questions folks may have.